Hey everyone, welcome to Automation Concepts with Priya. So, in the last videos, we talked about why getting started with automation feels hard and created a simple invoice automation using make.com. Now, today, I want to talk about some automation fundamentals, basic automation fundamentals, regardless of the tools that you use, whether it's make.com or Zapier or n8n, or you are planning to switch your tool. These fundamentals will create a mental model for you that will help you to understand any tool easily. So whenever you get into a new tool, you will not be starting from scratch. And before I move forward, let me just say that the fundamentals or the automations we are talking about in here are related to SaaS automations majorly, where which are the most common automations you will be doing for your businesses, which is transferring data from one application to another application. And then there are other type of automations as well, which is called robotic process automation and browser based automations or web scraping. So for this video, we will focus on SaaS based automations and we'll keep the others aside for another video in future. All right, so let's get started. Now, the big picture or the engine behind every automation is this is the basic engine behind your every automation. There are triggers and actions. When you are building an automation, there is a trigger and then there is a action. So trigger is when the automation starts, and action is what step should happen once it has started. And then there are something in the system which supports these. So those are like app connections. You can call them connections. You can call them credentials. And it is called as credentials. Then there are APIs. So APIs is what gets you the data from one system, and you can update data in another system using an API. And data mapping is mapping the data between the two systems. So these are your major engines of automation. The simplest automation will have at least these items. Now we are talking about this is because, and the goal of this video is that it becomes easier for you to understand automation so that new tools are not doesn't feel scary anymore. So as soon as you are into a new tool, you would be able to easily debug your automations. You will be able to learn new tools faster. You are not starting from scratch. And when you are in the new tool interface, it's just a new user interface. Still, trigger remains the trigger, action remains the remain. So you just land into a new interface and you ask a question, where should I find the trigger, right? Another question may be, what step next do I need to add? That's the question that you ask, not, scared of the system or the new platform. All right, so now we will talk about each of these a bit in detail, and we'll also see an example from the invoice automation itself so that we can map these to the actual automation. Okay, so first of all, what are connections? So connections are the permissions, which means if you are using HubSpot CRM, so the tool is requesting the permission. It is asking you, hey, can I use this system on your behalf? And when you allow the permissions, creating a connection, allowing the permission, you are saying, yes, you can make changes to this system on my behalf. That's what the connections are. So if you are connecting HubSpot to make.com, essentially make.com is establishing a connection with HubSpot where it is requesting permissions to make changes or requesting data from HubSpot, right? So when you are creating an automation, you have to connect Gmail or the Google Sheet or Airtable. So that's the connection. Now next is a trigger. So a trigger is a simple question. When does this automation start? Does it start on a form submission? Does it start on a lead creation? Or does it runs daily to check for new leads, like that? And based on that, there are three common types of triggers essentially: time-based, event-based, and webhook-based. So time-based is something that runs daily at 9 a.m. Update this job at 9 a.m. Send email to customers at 6 p.m. So that's your time-based automation. Event-based is something that happens immediately as soon as an event happens. So, for example, meeting is booked, send email to the guests. So that's your event-based automation, which happens immediately as soon as an event has happened in the application. And webhook-based is when a system notifies your tool, external system. So you create a webhook in, let's say, make.com or n8n. You save that webhook URL in maybe HubSpot. As soon as a new deal will be created in HubSpot, it will notify make.com that this deal has created, and it will send you the data of that deal. So that's webhook. So what is webhook? Webhook is when an external system notifies your tool about a particular event for which it has subscribed. Okay? So that's about the triggers. Now next is action. So action is what should automation do? So it follows essentially the trigger that now there could be multiple actions in one workflow. So you can create the contact, and then maybe you want to update the phone number only for that contact. So those are two actions in that. So anything we do, like send an email, add a row to Airtable, create task, as you can see here, or even call an API. So that is also action from the perspective of the automation tool that you are using. Now, if I say that, okay, uh, when the new lead is created, send email using Outlook to John, right? What did I say? When the lead is created, that's your trigger. Send an email, that's your action, using Outlook. So Outlook is your application to which you will create the connection to John. That's your data. Now, yeah, so that's your action connection trigger. So that sentence completes that thing. Okay. Now, the purpose of sending email to John is that he or she is immediately notified of the lead creation so that they can take the appropriate action. It may be sending a first touch email, it may be calling them. So your action is sending email, but your outcome is reducing the first touch with the lead, right? So don't confuse between action and outcome. Outcome is the change of state. Action is something that has happened to that particular uh, data or the record. Okay. Now the next is, okay, so what did we cover already? We covered triggers, we covered actions, and we covered connections, right? Now the fourth item is data mapping. So data mapping is mapping your inputs to the uh, output app or the destination app, and making sure that you map the data in the correct fields, right? So, for example, first name goes into first name field, last name goes into last name field, email goes into email field. You are not saving phone number to the email field by mistake, right? Or you are not saving a number field in a text field by mistake, which could cause errors in the system. So if you save a phone number to email, it may throw an error. It may or it may not, depends on the application, but in most cases it will, because there are validations set up in the system to ensure that correct format of data is saved in the application. So that's about your data mapping. Now the fifth item is APIs. Now why we are talking about APIs here is that there are two parts to it. So one part is, even if you are not seeing it, but when you are sending data to another app, it is communicated through APIs. That's one part of it. Second part of it is, sometimes the tool that you are using, let's say you are using make.com, and in that tool, some actions may not be available through the modules that are in the app. So you have to maybe use the custom API method, which is also very easy in the tools. 90% of the work is actually handled by the tool. All you have to do is understand these three concepts. This will help you in, along with the along with being able to use the APIs directly. It will also help you to debug your existing data e- easily. So you'll be able to understand what might be happening, what the error, if you are getting an error response from other application, you will be able to understand that why this error is, or what is it trying to say, right? So there are three concepts in APIs. So first of all, what is API? API is a communication protocol through which two applications talk to each other. Now it has three parts, which is endpoint. Endpoint is the URL. So to which URL, from which URL we are requesting the data, and to which URL we want to send the data. Yeah. So endpoint is the URL which performs an action. Then there are methods. So method is a way of telling the other server, what do you want to do? You want to read the data, you want to update the data, you want to create new record, you want to delete a record. So that's what these are about. The get method means it's a get request which requests to read the data. So you cannot make any modification to the server, but you can read read the data, whichever data you are requesting. Then post is to create the record on the end system. Put and patch are part of like update. So put is like it replaces the whole record, and patch is updating specific fields. So both are uh, update methods, requesting to update the record. It depends how the API is built on the other side, and you will find all of this information in the API documentation of that particular application. We will take a quick look at Airtable documentation once this is complete. Once this page is complete, theory is done. And then delete is delete. So you send a delete request to to delete a particular record. Then authentication is the same, like we use connections in the make.com or in the automation tool. Same is the authentication method, where you are requesting that application that I am authorized to request the data, or I am authorized to create this particular data. So there are different methods of authentication. Most popular are OAuth and API keys. So either you can send an API key in your request, or OAuth is an open standard to authorize the request without using user's password. So you don't need user's password to log in into a system. A third party application can log into your CRM or your Airtable system without using your password. So those are the concepts of it. Now, the thing we are talking about it is because it's an optional thing. You don't have to necessarily use API, but benefits are it gives you more control. Sometimes modules that are available in your automation tool may not cover all the features or all the APIs. They might cover most popular ones which are used. A lot of them could be there, which might need custom API. And then it's just a advanced action. Plus, it gives you a good understanding. So debugging becomes a lot easier. Okay. So now let's quickly take a look at API. We are in the Airtable documentation right now. Okay. And I am on the list records API. So you can see what it says. I hope you can see. I can include it. So it says get here, list record, get Airtable, version 0, your base ID, and your table ID or table name, right? So that's your method. This is your endpoint, and these are the parameters. You can call them parameters. So let's quickly see it. Do you see something here? This is called as curl, which is how the data should be requested. So if I copy this curl here, and we will go to Postman. So Postman is a API, popular API testing tool. What I'm going to do is, I'm in the dashboard here. I'm going to click import here, and I'm going to put that curl here. And now I'll say, for now, import without saving. Now you see, it, I got the get method here. And this is my endpoint, the whole combination with parameter and the base URL. So this is the base URL, and these with the parameters is the whole endpoint. Now if I go under authorization, there is nothing. If I go under headers, you will see authorization bearer your token. Now if I go here and show you this, it says -h authorization bearer your token. So this H is a representative of headers. So we have something called as so APIs work through HTTP requests. So HTTP requests have headers and body. So you can send some data in the body if you want to update something, or sometimes even GET requests requires a body, depending upon how the API has been designed or architecture of the API. Now let's see a update example. Let's say update record. Just want to keep it simple. Okay. I'll again copy this. Okay. You can also try this. Just go to Airtable API documentation, copy this, go to Postman. You will have to sign in into it, sign in and import. Okay. Import into collection. Yes. So you see, it says patch method here. Both, it supports both actually, patch and put both. So you can use any. In the request, it was patch. So our Postman took patch here. This is your endpoint URL. Now you had under headers, you have two headers here, authorization and content type. So my headers should have both of these in Postman. And then data is fields, which is your body. Okay. So if we go to headers, you can see we have authorization and content type. This is the easiest way. Like if you are working with automation tools, just go to the documentation, copy the curl command, bring it into Postman, add your token here, and then test it. You can just simply test it. And under raw here, you see this data. This is the data that we want to update. So yeah, that was quick demo of the APIs. And then we will start data flows across the application, or the automation, essentially. This sort of summarizes what we have talked about till now. So first step is trigger fires. The automation tool receives a trigger fires, means trigger fires in the original app. So if a form, let's say you are using Jot forms and the form is submitted, so that trigger is fired through the connection that has been established with Jot form. So trigger fires Your automation tool receives the data. Now you have the data. You will map it to the action step. And when the action step runs, it will use the data to perform a particular action in the destination app. And then you get the state is altered, and you get the final altered state as the output. So that's the most common use case where data is moving between the apps from A to B to C. Most of the automations are essentially under the hood doing that. It's a different story that we have to process the data in different ways, different forms. There is whole formats of data like JSONs, structured data, arrays, numbers, strings, float data, integer data. So all that is a different story. But at a essential level in the automation, we are moving data from point A to B to C. So this is a quick diagram which is explaining that we have a form submission. We create an action is a create contact in a CRM system. Make.com is your tool which is authorized to use these applications via connections, and APIs are running under the hood which are transferring the data between the applications, and they are also using these authorizations to request or update the data. Now the goal here or the benefit of this is that this is a basic mental model of the automation. So once this mental model is clear for you, using new tools will become much more easier. They will no longer be intimidating. You will not be starting from scratch whenever you are logging into a new user interface or a new tool. And if something goes wrong, you know where to look, you know what questions to ask. I hope it's been good till now, knowing the fundamentals. And we'll just quickly cover two more things now. So, basic understanding of why automations might break or which are the common errors that happen. So, first one is missing or expired connections. So when you establish a connection in an app, sometimes scope is not properly authorized. That's first reason that could happen with the credentials or the connections. Second is generally apps have a inbuilt system for the security purpose where if a connection is not used regularly, after a while it is automatically unauthorized. So that if make.com is connected to HubSpot and you have not been using that automations or that connection, so after a few days, maybe 30 days, because it has not been used, um, HubSpot may expire that connection. Then you have to renew it. And suddenly you go back and switch on that automation or it starts running. It may fail because HubSpot has rejected it and expired the connection. Wrong triggers. So it might trigger on a wrong event which was not intended. Incorrect data mapping. Of course, like if you map phone number to email field or you want to send phone data to your messaging app but data is missing there, or you mapped the wrong field, maybe you mapped email field to instead of the phone field, so that will throw an error. Another is missing field values. It's similar to same thing, like sometimes uh, that data is required. So for example, if you're creating a contact record in CRM and first name is required. Now, when you receive the data from the form, in the form you have not made the first name required. In that case, what will happen is if somebody submits the form without entering the first name and it goes through your CRM, then CRM is expecting first name. So it will throw error. So you have to, when creating automation, see that does my input is providing the data which is expected my output? Is that required? So look for the required fields in your applications and make sure it's there. If you have a doubt that maybe incoming data might not have that field, then ensure you have some kind of a backup value to handle it, a default value or a fallback value. For example, let's say for emails, we use hey first name, right? So we use the dynamic variables these days under curly braces, hey first name. Now, if first name is not available, then we use generally slash there. So similarly, you can use that in when mapping the data. You can say if first name is missing, then use there, replace it with there. The another is API errors, and these are common errors 401, 403. You can read about them on ChatGPT or on Google. I will also cover them in future on the detailed sections of APIs. So 500 error is like a server error. 429 is rate limit errors because APIs have some rate limits that you can, which means you can access API for a limited number of time. You can call an API limited number of times within a specific time frame. For example, in 1 second, you can make 5 calls to the server. So that's the rate limit. If you try to access it more than 5 times within that 1 second, it will return you a 429 error. Or if some data resource is missing which you are requesting, it might throw 404 error like that. Data type mismatch, text and number, like we talked about. In some systems, what happens is phone number. So, for example, phone number is a number field, or amount is a number field. Now, if you send amount as a string, then that system will throw an error as invalid data type. So, yeah, that by mismatch is done. Now we are on the best practices. So, the best practices for you, if you are getting started, is keep your workflow as simple as possible. Keep the automation under use less number of steps, like 3, 4, 5 steps. Don't add too many steps to your automation. Otherwise, it will become complicated for you to, build, and you might even lose motivation if there is an error or something. So keep it small, simple. For testing, use test data. Prepare some test data and use that instead of working on the real data because it might mess up your actual record. Fourth one is name the nodes clearly so that you know what this particular module is doing. And then don't automate unclear process. That's very, very important. Make sure your steps are clear, what you want to do, what actions you want your automation to take. So yeah, that was about it. Let's just quickly jump to make.com to look into these. This is our invoice automation that we covered in the last video. So this is our trigger, okay, and this is time-based trigger. It runs every day. Now these are our action steps. And now you can see that how the each module is named. So get pending bills. So this tells me I'm getting pending bills regularly. Then here I'm listing all customers, listing all products. This step is to create the invoice. So this gives anybody who comes and reads this automation that these are the actions that we are doing. Now also let me show you quickly the data mapping. So if we go to the history, the tests that we did, what is data mapping? So if I open the create invoice, okay, this is my output after creation, and these are the inputs that we sent. So if I open this is data mapping. What I have mapped contact ID. Let me just shift it. So if I hover over it, you'll see that this is, this was moving, flickering. So I mapped contact ID from that module, invoice ID from first module. Payment options we have not mapped. So that's what the data mapping means, mapping correct data to the correct field. So this is our data mapping, which is coming from different modules based on the requirement. And let's just quickly see an example of error as well. So this is the error that we had. Now let's see what was the error. Missing value of the required parameter customer ID. So the mistake I did was that this customer was not this customer didn't exist in Zoho, but we pulled the record for that particular customer, which is, let's say, Brightwave Media. Now, when we search for Brightwave Media in Zoho, it returns me total number of bundles zero. So it returns zero because it didn't exist. But I don't have any filter here to check whether it exists or not. That's why it had thrown this error. So yes, that was about the fundamentals part one. In the next, we will cover some more advanced topics. Not advanced, exactly advanced, but definitely notch level up and makes your automation a little more intelligent. For example, loops. We'll talk about loops, if and else. So those kinds of things, filters. So that helps you handle different conditions. So thank you and have a good day. Bye bye.